Good morning, Morai Rabotai, Bruchim Habayim. We are continuing on Masechet Succah, and we're on Daf Yud Dalet Amud Aleph of 6 lines, really from the bottom of the Amud. We really started the Gemara barely after the Mishnah in the middle of the Amud, so we're going to try to explain it again. Today's Amud is being learned as a Zchut Refuah Shelema for Esther Bracha Bat Chaya, that should have full recovery, for Nisim Ben Miriam, that should have Refuah Shelema, and for Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid, that should have much Hatzlacha in her treatment, and should have Refuah Shelema Be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. This month's learnings of the community has been graciously dedicated by the Shei family, Kohen family, Dayan families. Should be an ultimate zchut for all of the mishpachot Be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. So we started the Mishnah. We're back into the core of the halachot of Schach and Sukkah, and we started discussing the machloket of Gezerat Tikra, whether or not Chazal have made an enactment, midrabanan, that you can't use wide boards and pieces of wood as a schach because it's going to easily be mixed up with your regular ceiling material, and at some point you're going to scratch your head and say, gee, I'm sitting under a sukkah already. So we don't want that to become a case, and therefore, perhaps maybe, ulai efshar, possible, Chazal made a gezerah that after a certain width, it's already considered a board which you're not supposed to be making a schach with. So the Mishnah read as a machloket Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir, which Rabbi Yehuda says you can use boards of wood for your sukkah, for your schach, and Rabbi Meir says you can't. And then the Mishnah says, if you put already boards on your schach that is 4 tfachim wide, the sukkah is kasher, but you shouldn't sleep under it, under that area, right? So that's our Mishnah. Now the Gemara right away jumped into a machloket Rav and Shmuel, how they understand our Mishnah. So Rav holds, and it's easier to go through the board that we have over here with the chart that we made. Rav holds machloket ben esarin she'esh b'hem arba'a. Only machloket Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda is if you have 4 tfachim wide. Then Rabbi Yehuda still holds is good, and Rabbi Meir is the one that says is a problem. Now Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold anything is a problem, according to Rav. According to Rav, there's no such a thing as Gezerat Tikra. You're good to go. 3, 4, 5, right? Which would, really demand us to understand the second part of the Mishnah of why you can't sleep under it when it's Neser of Arba. And Rabbi Meir holds that up to 4, you're good. Up to 4 is equivalent of having little bamboo pieces, little pieces of wood, and all of a sudden by 4 is a problem because 4 already is its own domain, hence the Gezerat Tikra. That's Rav. Shmuel disagrees. Shmuel says no. Machloket is b'she'en bahem arba'a machloket. 3 is a problem according to Shmuel, according to Rabbi Yehuda, and according to Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Yehuda says is fine. So machloket Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir, according to Shmuel, is by 3. By 4, everyone already agrees that's a problem. Says Shmuel, if you have 4 tfachim wide, there isn't a shita that holds its mutar. Gezerat Tikra is agreed upon by Rabbi Meir, by Rabbi Yehuda. If you have 4 tfachim width of any board of wood, it's pasul. What's the machloket Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda? It's machloket if it's less than 4, but it's more than 3. In other words, less than 3, if it's 2, everyone holds is mutar. Because, when a little bamboo is fine, so 2 tefachim also is fine. Why shouldn't it be? It's less than lavud. Anything less than 3 tefachim is considered a thin little piece. Once it gets to 3, it has 3 plus, then it's machloket. Then Rabbi Meir will tell you, well, it's more than lavud, it's more than 3. So between 3 and 4 is machloket Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says 3 to 4 is fine. Once you hit 4 is the problem. Rabbi Meir says, no, once he hits 3 is the problem. And that's according to Shmuel, the machloket Tanaim that we have in our Mishnah. Okay? So this kind of like helps understand. By 2, everyone holds is mutar. By 3, according to Rav, by 3, everyone holds is mutar as well. The only machloket is by 4. And Shmuel holds already by 3, it's machloket, and Rabbi Meir would be machmir. So says the Gemara, Umor Savar, this is now 6 lines up, where we're up to from yesterday, that one of them holds lo gazrin. And Umor Savar kevan denafkilo mitorat lavud gazrinan. By 3 plus, between 3 and 4, is machloket according to Shmuel. Now the Gemara says, Tanan, we have to now understand the seifa of our Mishnah, the last part of the Mishnah. Look back in your Mishnah. Natan aleha, I mean, it's a short Mishnah, but it's, there's 2 sentences in it. So the second sentence is, Natan aleha neser shehu rachav arba'a. If you put a board that is 4 tfachim wide, then you cannot sleep under it, right? It's kasher still, but you can't sleep under it. So Bishlama, says the Gemara, according to Shmuel, I understand this comment in the Mishnah. According to Shmuel, the Amar Beshen Ba'arba'a Machloket, Aval Yesh Ba'arba'a Divrei HaKol Psula, right? If you have Shmuel, 4 according to everyone is an X, right? 4 is a problem according to everyone. So the Mishnah reads so smoothly. It's amazing, right? So then, Machloket, Aval Yesh Ba'arba'a Divrei HaKol Psula, Mishum Haki Lo Yishan Tachtav. That's why you should not be sleeping under it, because this is chach pasul, according to everyone. The Mishnah could say this, a blanket heter, that you cannot sleep under this, because both according to Rabbi Meir and even Rabbi Yehuda, 4 is pasul. And therefore you should not sleep on Rav. But according to Rav, that still Rabbi Yehuda holds that 4 is okay, according to Rav. So why shouldn't you sleep under it? It's chach kasher. There's no machloket by 4 tfachim wide. It's mamash mahadrin min hamahadrin. It's kasher. Why can't I sleep under it? So says the Gemara, why shouldn't you, according to Rabbi Yehuda, be sleeping under it? So Gemara says, well, who says that this Mishnah is talking about everyone? Read the Mishnah. Can we do this together? Let's everyone look at your Mishnah. That's the answer of the Gemara. Mesachechin benesarim divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds you could do nesarim as much as you want. You want to go to Home Depot, get the 8x4 and put it there. Gesundere 8, no problem. Rabbi Meir is the one that says the problem. Rabbi Meir oser. So it says the answer of the Gemara here is the rest of the sentence is only Rabbi Meir talking. Rabbi Yehuda is off the chart right from the get-go. Rabbi Yehuda says, I have nothing to say in this Mishnah. Everything is okay. You want to do Nesarim? Hazaku Baruch. Do it. By saying that, he checks out of our Mishnah. So the next comment is only according to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir is the one who says, Rabbi Meir Oser, he says, no, you can't do it. And now it's only Rabbi Meir who is saying, Natan alea neser shehu rachav arba tfachim, that if you have something that indeed is pasul, which is arba tfachim, again, according to Rav, shlosha is fine. Remember this? Okay. Right? Only when he hits arba, according to Rabbi Meir, is the problem. And Rabbi Meir is the one that ends off our Mishnah saying, if you have arba tfachim, then you should not be sleeping under it. Right? Now, why is it not pasul, by the way? In other words, let's jump into Daf Yud Zayin, three dapim from now. We're going to have a Gemara that tells us if you have a schach pasul across your sukkah, the entire sukkah is pasul. So why is your sukkah kasher over here if you have a, according to Rabbi Meir, if you have a board that is 4 tfachim wide, it's schach pasul. If you have 4 tfachim of schach pasul going across the whole sukkah from one end to another, guess what happens? The entire sukkah is invalid. Your sukkah is pasul. So why is that not the case over here? So Rashi explains it here that we're talking about minat sad. Right? That means your sukkah, we mentioned before, and this is the Gemara later on, we have spoken about this before as well, but the Gemara in Yud Zayin discusses this, that if I have a room even, and the ceiling has caved in, and you have ceiling, remnants of ceiling on the sides, so long as it's within 4 amot, it's good to go, right? You have up until 4 amot is fine. You could have schach pasul on the sides because we consider them as the continuation of your walls, and we call it dofan akuma, a crooked wall, which is still considered kasher. So says Rashi, this is what we're talking about. This wood, this plank of wood that you have, the plank of wood that you have 4 tfachim wide, it's not in the middle of my sukkah, but rather it's on the side of my sukkah. So it's schach pasul. It doesn't affect the kashrut of my sukkah, and yet can I sleep under it? Absolutely not, because it's schach pasul. That's how he explains our Mishnah. But now we survived the question of the Gemara. Why, according to Rav, this was an attack on Rav, right? The Gemara basically said, according to Shmuel, I could read the Mishnah perfectly. According to Rav, I'm stuck with the Mishnah because Mishnah says you can't sleep under this wood that's 4 tfachim wide. And according to Rav, that's only according to Rabbi Meir, not Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's kasher. And the Gemara easily answers that, yeah, of course it's only according to Rabbi Meir. Because the Seifa of the Mishnah is only Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda is not talking.
So why is it though it says only 4 tefachim? It could be up to 4 amos. If you say it's going to have to say it's at the side. So if you had 10 tefachim, it would still be the same din. If it's still
correct, but when does it start? He hasn't told us, remember. He hasn't told us what's the minimum of a schach that is pasul as gezerat tikra. So he's coming to tell you, as soon as it has 4 tfachim, you can no longer sleep under it.
If it's less, you could.
Yes. Because remember, according to Rav, we're in Rav now.
Right.
According to Rav, even in Rabbi Meir, who is machmir, 3 is fine. 3.5 is fine. 3 3/4 is fine. Only when it hits 4, that's the minimum amount of your schach pasul. So that's why it says that in the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, Tashma, last line. Shnei Sidinim, this is another attack on Rav, okay? So we are saying another questioning, line of questioning on Rav. We'll see, the Gemara says Shmuel is good to go. Rav is questioned. What is this? Shnei Sedinin, mistarifin, this is a Gemara later on again, in the same place, Daf Yud Zayin Amud Bet, the Gemara has this whole schach pasul business of if you have 4 tvachim worth of schach pasul that goes across the sukkah, is pasul, right? So says the Gemara there, Shnei Sedinin mistarfim. If you have 2 pieces of parchment, right? Now pieces of parchment are pasul because they are mekabel tumah. So even if you made it from something that grows from the ground, right? You made it from flax, from pishtan, still is pasul, right? Because once you make a garment, is mekabel tumah, right? So we mentioned, remember we mentioned that Rav Moshe Feinstein, he invalidated the blinds that they used to have 50, 60 years ago in America because there are 2 pieces of, small pieces of cloth that was attached to the bamboos for the shade that would help you bring it up and down, and that's Mekabel Tumah, and the attachment to the thing makes the whole thing Mekabel Tumah. Remember that? Right? So this is, you have cloth. Cloth is pasul because Mekabel Tumah. So if you have a cloth that is only 3 tfachim, so of course it's chach pasul. It's going across the whole sukkah. Kasher or pasul? Well, the sukkah is kasher still because we don't have 4 tfachim of chach pasul. Then I bring another cloth that's 3 tfachim and put it next to it. Now you have 6 tfachim of schach pasul. Now is it kasher or pasul?
Probably not.
Well, do you combine these 2 or not? The Gemara says absolutely yes. The sukkah is completely pasul. No, your sukkah is pasul now, right? So says the Gemara. Obviously, by the way, we're talking about the case that you need the 2 ends of the sukkah to be combined to be kasher. In other words, if I have a sukkah that has its own 3, if it has 4 walls, and I have this schach pasul in the middle, but this part has its own 3 walls and it has 7 by 7, so this is kasher, of course, right? You're talking about the case that you need the combination, and that completely cuts through and makes it 2 different entities, and if each entity doesn't have kashrut of its own, then it will be, the whole sukkah is going to be rendered pasul. Okay? So says the Gemara, Shenene sarim and mistarfin. But if you have 2 boards of wood, those 2 boards of wood, they are not mistarif. They are not combined to say, well, now you have a schach pasul over here that divides the 2 parts of sukkah, and the whole sukkah is, you don't say that. That's what the Gemara says. Rabbi Meir says, af nesarin kesedinin. That even by boards of wood are like the sadin, are like the cloth, and therefore they are mistarif, and they would invalidate your entire sukkah. This is the Gemara we're going to have later on in Daf Yud Zayin. So the Gemara says, okay, now let's examine this Gemara based on Rav and Shmuel. See which one fits. Bish lama li Shmuel. According to Shmuel, I understand that Shmuel holds that even by 3 is machloket, right? So even by 3 is machloket. If you have arba, according to Shmuel already, according to everyone, is a problem. Says the Gemara, my mistarfin la arba. We have to add up to the number 4. Because according to number 4, according to everyone, is a problem. So as long as you add it up to number 4, you are good. The verbiage of mistarfin, they're combined. That verbiage it makes sense. It's a proper verbiage used in the Gemara, right? Ela the Rav, but according to Rav, right? The Amar Beshesh by an Arba Machloket, that even by Arba is Machloket. Rabbi Yehuda holds even by Arba you'll find. Aval en b'hem Arba divra kol keshera. But anything less than Arba, even according to Rabbi Meir, is fine, right? So you go from being completely fine, right? Even according to Rabbi Meir, who was Machmir, 3.5 is considered like a little chupchik, like a little bamboo, kasher, right? There's no. So what's mistarfin? Says the Gemara. What's the case? If you have arba, if you already are talking about the case that each one of these wood boards that you have is already 4 tfachim wide, then why do you need to be mistaref? Why do you need to combine them? According to Rabbi Meir, each one of them is going to render the sukkah invalid. You don't need mistarfim, you don't need combined. So Elamai, you're going to tell me, oh, they don't have 4. They have only 3.5 or 3, right? Correct? So if you have 3.5 or 3, what's mistarfin? They're not going to be combined together. You could do the whole sukkah from them. It's completely kasher. Forget about Rabbi Yehuda that says everything is good. Even according to Rabbi Meir, you could do your entire sukkah with 3.5 wide boards, the entire sukkah you could do like that. What's mistarfin? The whole thing doesn't make sense, according to Rav. So it says, the Gemara, they are like bamboos, they're like little pitsy wood. It's the same halakha according to him. 2, 3, 1, 3.5, it's all the same. So Gemara says, correct. Leolam the itbu arba. No. We are talking about a case that each one of those boards have arba. They are wide, nice, arba tfachim plus. So what's mistarfim? Says the Gemara, umay mistarfim la'arba amot min hatzad. We are talking about the dofan akuma business. Remember, the Gemara in Daf Yud Zayin, the main primary business of the Gemara there is dofan akuma. What he's saying is that not only this schach is pasul, but when you put it on the side, right? Not only you can't sit under it, you may have thought that it's not going to be considered dofan akuma, because the Gemara is coming to tell you that no, mistarfim, these planks of wood, they are going to be added together to create a dofan akuma, right? So says the Gemara, mistarfim la'arba amot min hatzad. So that's one way of saying this proof, right? In other words, we have this Gemara in later on in Daf Yud Zayin, and there are two ways to read why this Gemara is a support for Shmuel and a Kashya on Rav. So this was one way of saying it, right? One way of saying it is, well, the Gemara says mistarfin, the verbiage doesn't seem to make sense according to Rav. And the Gemara says, you're correct. It's talking about big woods. And when it says mistarfin, it's because it's talking about dofan akuma mistarfin, not a regular schach mistarfim. Fine. Another language that was used, the same Gemara, right? Is Bishlama li Shmuel. I understand according to Shmuel how this Gemara reads. In other words, let's read this Gemara again. The Gemara says later on in Daf Yud Zayin, right? Tashba, Shnei Sedinin mistarfin, two pieces of cloth are mistaref, Shnei Nesarin and mistarfin. But two pieces of wood are not mistaref. The Gemara says, Rabbi Meir Omer, Af Nesarin Kestinin. Rabbi Meir holds that no, Neser, Sadin, wood, or piece of cloth is all the same. They are mistaref. Now, the Gemara now says, a proof from this Gemara to Shmuel. Bish lama li Shmuel. I understand according to Shmuel, that he holds that even when you don't have arba'a, by 3 already there's machloket, right? Because according to Rabbi Meir, already 3 is a problem. And by 4, Shmuel will tell you everyone agrees that by 4 is X'd out and is pasul. My mistarfin arba'a amot min hatzad. When it says mistarfin, we're talking about the 4 amot on the side, right? That when you put these boards on the side, 1, 2, 3, they're added up to create a dofan akuma up until 4 amot, 6 feet, right? Ela l'Rav, but according to Rav, who understands it differently, Bishlama l'Rabbi Meir, my mistarfin la'arba amot. According to Rabbi Meir, that 4 is a problem. When you say mistarfim, we already understand that it's going on the side, mistarfin, 2, 4 amot, which is 6 feet, to create a dofar akuma. That we understand. And Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that everything is kasher. What is the mistarfim part? Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar afilu yesh ben arba kashera. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you're stuck because everything is kasher. 2 is kasher, 3, 4 is kasher. It's no gezerat tikra. So what are you talking about? My en mistarfin. When he says they are not mistaref, right? Rabbi Yehuda holds they are not added up. Added up to what? Everything is kasher. the verbiage, the word added up, indicates that there is a limit that they would add up to be pasul, right? Like I ask you, right, the Chevra Kadisha over here, Chaburata Kadishata, is there anything according to Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rav, that would be pasul?
No.
No. Can I go to Home Depot and get like a nice 8-foot wide board and drop it on top of my schach? Yes. So what's en mistarfin? When he says, no, it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. Indicates that there is a limit for adding up. So says the Gemara, Kalim ba'almaninu, everything is considered like bamboo. Even wide boards are considered like a bamboo. Gemara says, I did the Kamar Rabbi Meir, Mistarfin, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Mistarfin. I answer for you. I understand your question you're asking. The language seems to be not very precise, and that's exactly what it is, because Rabbi Meir is using the verbiage Mistarfin, because Rabbi Meir, remember, once he gets to 4, once he adds up to 4 is a problem, right? So Rabbi Yehuda is discussing this with Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says, Mistarfin, they add up. And Rabbi Yehuda uses, because it's the language of the Mishnayot, right? You use the same verbiage when you're debating between the two. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, they're not going to add up. Which in truth means nothing is going to add up. Because even if you have 2, 3, 4, if you have a wide, massive board, it's still kasher. There's no Gezerat Tikra. Right? So therefore, you see from here, says the Gemara, that the language, though be it not exact, but it's not a kasha, because he's using the same verbiage in the debate format with Rabbi Meir. But really, in truth, according to Rabbi Yehuda, there is nothing that is a problem.
Wouldn't the Gemara say pshita?
Hmm?
Wouldn't the Gemara just say pshita?
Pshita on what?
The fact that it's obviously you can't combine to go over 4.
That's basically what we're asking. We're saying, why don't you say that? Why doesn't Rabbi Yehuda just say, well, there is nothing to talk about? That's what Rabbi Yehuda should say. So pshita is not, what are you talking about? Right? The verbiage he uses, and mistarfin, it indicates that these two are not mistaref, but maybe something else is mistaref. And Gemara says, no, nothing is mistaref, because everything is good. So why does he use en mistarfin, that verb? Because he's using the same language as his opponent, right? He says mistarfin, he says, no, mistarfin. That's how Mishnah always is, because the language that Rebbe used for authoring Mishnayot is a very poetic and concise and consistent language. So if one of them uses that verbiage, Rebbe uses that verbiage going back and forth for both of the opponent to make it consistent. So says the Gemara, let's just finish with this. Tanya Kvate de Rav, Tanya Kvate de Shmuel. We have a Braita supporting each one of Rav and Shmuel. You think they're alone? Each one of them has an explicit Braita to support them. Tanya Kvate de Rav, the Braita that supports Rav directly and explicitly, says like this: Schachah benesarim shel eres. If you brought pieces of wood, pieces of boards that are from cedar tree, right? She'en bahen arba, that are not wide 4 tvachim, anything less than 4 tvachim. Help me out. Divrei hakol kashera. Because everyone is kasher. Here. Look at this, right? This, divrei hakol is kashera. You can't say that here in Shmuel, because if it's 3 already, according to Rabbi Meir, it's not kasher. So this is a Braita that's a checkmate on Shmuel. Checkmate. There's nothing to talk about. This Braita explicitly saying like Rav, right? But don't get excited, because there's a Braita that says explicitly like Shmuel, right? So says the Gemara, Yesh b'ayin arba'ah. Continuing on that Braita, support for Rav. If it's already arba'ah, Rabbi Meir posel, the Rabbi Yehuda machshir. Exactly like Rav. Rabbi Yehuda says it's kasher even by 4. Rabbi Meir holds his pasul. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda, as always, he brings the maaseh, right? He says there was a story, B'shata sakana, when the Romans had said that you can't make sukkah. So you know what Chachamim did? They still made a sukkah. How? They went to the Home Depot and they got this wood that was arba'ah. She'eviu nesarim shayu b'ayin arba'ah. They brought this 4 tfachim wide woods. They took the ceiling of the balcony off. They put these new woods as though they're repairing the balcony. And meanwhile, you have a sukkah. So that's what they did. And we sat under it, says Rabbi Yehuda. Masechet. And the Gemara says, don't get excited, Rabbi Yehuda. You bring a raya from Sakarat Nefashot. This is the whole thing is Gezerah the Rabbanan according to everyone. Of course, the Rabbanan did not make a Gezerah in the time that you're going to lose your head for it, right? So, you can't bring a raya from Shat Sakara and Shat Sakara raya. That's the raya for Rav, right? Tanya Kavated Shmuel, and there's a brighter that says explicitly like Shmuel. What is it? If you brought boards of wood that are arba'a, says the Gemara, divrei hakol psula. According to everyone, 4 is pasul. Right? This only works according to Shmuel. Right. Because according to Rav, arba'a even is kasher according to Rabbi Yehuda. So this is like a checkmate on Rav. It says the Gemara, in ba'in arba'a, the Braita continues, if you don't have arba'a, you only have shlosha, Rabbi Meir posel, for Rabbi Yehuda machshir. See, exactly like our Shmuel here. Now if you have 3, then it's machloket. Rabbi Meir says pasul. Rabbi Yehuda says kasher. Umod Rabbi Meir sheim yesh ba'in neser leneser kim lo neser shemaniach pesel benehem vekeshera. Umod Rabbi Yehuda sheim natan alea neser shehu rachav 4 tfachim keshera ve'en yeshlim tachtav. This the continuation of this braita needs a little more explanation. Where all the time, Bezrat Hashem will leave the continuation of this for the next shiur. Hazaku Baruch.
So everyone